Welcome to the Making of Me podcasts, where we explore extraordinary stories of resilience and mindset. Today's guest is Rick Hill, a 51 years old cancer survivor who overcame stage 3 uh, embryonal cells carcinoma without chemotherapy or radiation. Rick followed an integrative program, including nutrition, enzymes, and lectures B or 17, and now dedicates his life to patient advocacy, integrative oncology, awareness, and empowering others to take charge of their health. It's really a pleasure and an honor having you on the show, Rick.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Like I was reading your paragraph, on the booking sheet,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of stuff in there that I identify with.
yeah.
When you're told you only got a couple of months to live,
Mm.
and you're 24 years old,
We,
uh, those are thoughts you don't forget.
yeah.
Why me? Why this? You come up with all kinds of things. But
Mm.
51 years later, I'm still
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, still heal and
And
active.
yeah, yeah, maybe the
Amazing.
oldest living dinosaur in the alternative world of therapy. But
Yeah.
fortunate for me, the God was watching and
Mm.
said, "Why don't you try something else? Just try something else. What you're doing is not working."
Hmm.
And being
Amazing.
human, you tend to go, "Yeah, but it's me, and
Yeah.
I'm good at things, and I don't need to try anything else." That's human nature.
Yeah.
Men are
Yeah.
like that, not women.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Rick. So, Rick, you were diagnosed with terminal cancer at your early 20s. Can you take us back to that moment and explain what led you to choose a path outside conventional treatment?
Interesting story. My scripture that I like to think about is part of a story where Abraham was trying to find a wife for his son. And he didn't like the neighborhood they were living in after they got away. So he said, "I want to send back some servants to the land of my fathers." And God spoke to me last night and said, "There's going to be a good looking woman at a
Mm.
well, and she's going to offer my servant water and the camels." Yeah, you know the story.
Yeah.
And so, did you know that was a 400-mile trip on a
Mm.
camel to
I,
find
I,
a woman standing at the well? Halfway through, I would have gone, what was I thinking? This is not going to work. So for me, I was at the Mayo Clinic, Rochester, Minnesota. It's a Friday. I'm scheduled Monday to start chemotherapy. I get a letter in the mail, 10-cent stamp. Open it up, read it. "Dear Rick, if you want to live, you're going to have to leave the Mayo Clinic."
hmm.
And I looked at it, I thought, mind your own business. What do you mean leave the Mayo Clinic? Most people would love to go there, because of the reputation that they had. So I called him up. I had his phone number. He wrote it at the bottom of the note. I called him up. I said, "John, it's Rick. You need to send me whatever you're smoking because this made no sense at all. Why would you think I would leave the Mayo Clinic, the citadel of modern medicine, huh?" And he said, "Because it's not medicine you need."
Hmm.
I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Well, how you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm probably going to meet my creator in about 30 days here. I was down to 120 pounds. I was on morphine. This was no ingrown toenail that I was
Hmm.
treating. This would take my life very quickly. Embryonal cell carcinoma, high grade, which meant it was moving fast. A cancer of the lymph system, the lymphatics." I said, "What do you think I ought to do if I leave here?" He said, "Well, a bunch of my parishioners, 2 or 3, have gone down, flew into San Diego, and they came back about a month later. Well, it worked." And he said they didn't even use chemicals. They used a fruit, a food. I said, "What food? What fruit could cure terminal cancer?" And he says, "Well, this one was apricots or apricots." So I said, "Listen, John, it's Rick. I eat apricots every season. I buy the apricot jelly. I like apricots." He said, "Well, you're eating them the wrong way." I said, "What do you mean I'm eating them the wrong? You want me to use my left hand? What are you talking about?" He said, no, if you look inside the apricot, inside that rough pit that's in there, a seed, inside that pit, if you break it open with a hammer, you will see it looks like an almond. Yeah. It doesn't taste like an almond. It's very bitter with a finished taste of amaretto, which isn't bad, but bitter. And they've since found, MSNBC did a special on the Hunza people, the tribe in northern Pakistan, and found that they eat like 300 of these a day, the people do. No recorded history of cancer anywhere ever. Teeth good until they die at about 120 years old. Vision good right up until the time they go. Yeah, unbelievable good health. So they did some research to make this story end and found that there is traces of cyanide in there. Traces. Not enough to make you foam at the mouth and keel over dead.
Yeah.
But it's only released at the site of cancer. So God looked at that and went, I'll make the other cells immune. I'll put something called beta glucosidase in the cancer cells. Your own immune cells, killer cells, T cells will see that and they'll kill it. Apoptosis, they call it. I heard that story from my buddy and I went, I don't know. This sounds ridiculous to me. I said, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to the Mayo Clinic this afternoon to meet with my chemotherapist. I'm going to tell him what you said. And the last words before he hung up with was, good luck with that, pal. In other words, he knew I would get a terrible reception. They wouldn't believe me at all. So I went, sat down with the chemotherapist, told the story I just told you and your listeners, your viewers. And instead of teaching me some new swear words, he leaned back in the chair and he said, you know what, Rick? It is warm in Tijuana this time of year. What? I stood up. I said, message delivered. Thank you for your honesty. I'll probably never see you again. And he smiled at me. Now, he didn't say, hey, look, we can't help you. I'm sure the people in Tijuana will. He didn't say that. No, he didn't want to lose a $1,000 a year job. He's not an idiot. But he wanted me to know, because he had my case all along, that I was not going to make it. And so I might as well do what I want to do.
Yeah.
If I want to lay on the beach in TJ and drink tequila shots, no problem. But here, I think he thought you're going to lose your life.
Yeah.
So I went home that night. My family had flown into town to say goodbye, dinner with the fam, and I told them the story. And my family taught me the new swear words. I mean, they were furious with me. How can you think about leaving the Mayo Clinic and go to Tijuana? Are you at, boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom, bitty, boom. So my younger brother said, Ricky, we always knew you were stupid. We just didn't know how much. And I said, well, Sam, it's my life. Sam Hill. Yeah. And so I got to my father-in-law, who stood up and he said, I like it. And I'll take him down there from Minnesota, long way to San Diego, and I'll help pay for it. I said, deal. Now think what happened to me, brother. In one day, I had 3 crazy things happen to me. And only 2 days before I was going to take that chemical. First of all, I get the letter. Didn't make sense. Leave the Mayo Clinic, Second of all, I get in the car, drive to the Mayo Clinic, and my doctor says to me, it's warm in Tijuana. And thirdly, we have a family reunion, and it's not a blood relative. It's my father-in-law who stands up and says, I think it's a good idea. I'll go with him. In one day, that happened to me. And when Abraham's servants got back to camp, they had found the woman at the well. She offered him a drink, offered the camels a drink, and he said, if you'd like to serve the Lord your God in the land where Father Abraham is living, we've got a dowry for you, and here comes the camels. Clinkety, clankety, jewels, goblets, gold. Some biblical scholars think it was probably around $500,000 worth. Here come the camels with all that jewelry. Daddy, if you're okay for me to go, you guys can have this jewelry. Well, nobody's dumb, buddy. He knew how to close the sale. Salt it with a few jewels. He gets back, and the servant says, yeah, but halfway through that trip on a sweaty camel, Didn't you think, what am I doing here? Why did I agree to this? And the servant that took the trip said, never once thought that. I'll tell you why. Because I being in the way, the Lord led me.
Hmm.
I was a follower of the Most High God. And because of that, I believe I was being led, even though the circumstances were completely crazy. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So when I went back with my family, I stood up and said, I think I'm going to go with Grandpa. I said, the story is weird. I will give you that. But I believe that I am being led to go to this place. And I will do whatever they ask me to do. Two key things: develop the faith by what you believe is happening. And number two, be all in.
Hmm.
Don't hold back. Don't say, well, I'll try the organic diet, but I'm still going to drink Diet Coke, okay? I'm still going to eat greasy hamburgers, okay? No, no, you don't get to do that. You get to eat organic food. You get to drink fresh juices. You got to cut out sugar, except what's in fruit. And first thing that happened to me was this cold pressed into a liquid that's 3 grams. You do a shot, you put the needle in the top and draw it out. I did 2 of these a day for 21 days, right there. 21 days. I got off morphine. My color came back. I mean, if you think I look bad now, that's what I looked like when I was at the Mayo
Really?
Clinic. That's my Fonzie hairdo. That's a gastric tube going to my stomach. I weighed 120 there. So I got there and I met with the doctor, and he said, are you willing to do what we asked you to do? Because if not, take the money you brought and go home, because you're not going to make it. You're too sick. They found cancer here when they operated. They found cancer on the top of my feet when they operated. Totally system wide in my lymphatic system, filled with cancer. So I did. And I'm here before God to tell you that in 21 days, I walked out of there. No pain, gaining weight,
Yeah.
on the mend. Probably not well yet, but on the mend. And then for
Yeah.
the next several years, I stayed on that diet. I segued to the capsules instead of the injectables, the capsule B17. And I took proenzymes, chymotrypsin and trypsin. Now, I'm about to give your listeners the key that opens every door. And that key was invented in 1902. In this book that I will give them free, it's a 300-page book. And in chapter 5, it tells you how to stay alive in the most unusual way, taking pancreatic enzymes. You did it when you were about 2 months old, still in your mother. You developed what we call today cancer cells. And in about the 3rd month, your pancreas kicked in and flooded your body with pancreatic enzymes, chymotrypsin and trypsin, and stopped that rapid cellular division that you and I and everybody else was getting. And so this Dr. Beard took adults with stage 4 cancer, fed them a lot of these pancreatic enzymes. They got well. Big people, not just that big of people. So he knew he had a tiger by the tail. But the government stepped in and said, no, 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 that's not our protocol. We can't make any money on that. They're apricots. And prevented hundreds of thousands and millions of people from doing what worked. Proof. Here's another book. Dr. Richardson, 67 people that he treated with what I did. They got completely well. When he published his book, our government threw him in jail and canceled his medical license just for helping people like me. So it has been, my friend, an uphill climb. No, every green light on Broadway here. Every turn, there were people opposing me. But I stayed on the diet, all organic, mostly fruits and vegetables, a little boring. Do you know most people quit this program because of boredom? They get well, boredom. And then after about the 90th salad they've eaten, they go, I would like to go get a pepperoni pizza tonight and a couple of large cold beers with it. And he knows the doctor took him off of that. And his immune system is overhearing the conversation. It's called self-talk. And the immune system is going, no, no, you idiot. That's what you were eating when we almost died. Don't do that. Enjoy your salad, you know? And you're looking down at it and going, it's kind of boring, you know? I had that last night. I had it the night before. Most of the people that get on this quit within 90 to 120 days. And then when they relapse, that cancer is not the same cancer that they had. It has transformed itself and the chemo will no longer work there. So, yeah, it has been crazy. But I'm not the only one. I got two ladies on my Facebook group that were there before I was in Tijuana at the Oasis of Hope Hospital. They're older than I am. They were sicker than I was. And I read them every week in my Facebook book. They're there. They're healthy. They got a zillion grandkids. They're getting sunburned every day. I'm saying, I'm not the only guy. There are hundreds of thousands of us who then went underground because we didn't want to wind up in jail. So the book I wrote, Too Young to Die, 100,000 copies sold. I only recently put it on Amazon. I sold all the rest of them at meetings, conventions, you know, because I didn't want to scare up trouble. But today, your listeners, your viewers can order these same products that I took, just like I showed you, legally, shipped out of Arizona, legally. Why? Because we are saying, and I am saying, I'm not practicing medicine. What we're selling is food. It is absolutely a food product, and therefore it should not be restricted. You can sell food in any corner store,
Yeah.
any grocery. Yeah. So let me do one thing here, and then I'll take whatever questions you have. Let me give you a website that you can get a free copy of World Without Cancer and learn the science behind what I did. So you don't have to take my word for anything. You could say, well, Rick made it up. He's a liar. The American Cancer Society said that about me. They said I was lying every time I gave a speech. But I was at the Mayo Clinic, you know. And I'll give them a copy of my book, which is The Story of Hope.
Yeah.
And all you got to do to get that is log on to B17, like the letter B, boy.
Yeah.
B17 works, WORKS, like Sam. B17works.com. That's it. And click on the little bubble thing that says, refer me to someone that can help. Click on that. And a little one-page questionnaire will come up. If you even partially fill it out, I will respond by sending you these free books and some articles that'll get you on your way to going, what if he said, what if that was true? What if Rick was telling the truth today? You know, I've got cancer, they're saying. I don't want to die. All right, take a week, get this stuff, do your own research. And I
Yeah.
think you'll come away going, wow, wow, hope, hope. Cancer
Wow.
is not
Amazing.
a death sentence. So what have I not covered?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. This has really more like a very enlightening, and I must say thank you for sharing your stories on how you get healed. Which there's really a whole lot to actually unpack there. So, if a parent came to you today with a child newly diagnosed with cancer, what will you want them to know that they may not hear in the traditional oncology office?
If someone came to me, you're saying,
Yes.
well, I'm restricted because I'm not a doctor. But here's what I can do legally. I can tell my story. Here's what I did. Here's who I was. Here's who I am. 51 years ago, I was treated. I've never had a relapse. I've never taken chemo, and I've never taken radiation. I have taken these things I showed you. They're non-toxic, and they're based on food. So I can tell this person who comes to me my story. This is what I did. If you want some of this stuff, I can show you how to get it.
Yeah.
If you want to find a doctor that you want to treat you, I can show you how to get a free consultation. I can help you by pointing I being in the way, the Lord led me. I can
Yeah.
be that leader for those people, but I will never tell them what to do. That's
Yeah.
illegal. That's practicing medicine without a license. But I can tell them what
Yeah.
I did all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, lastly, in your work advocating for integrative oncology, what has be the biggest misconception patients face when navigating cancer treatment options?
I think they look at it as a binary choice, either or. You're either going to be 100% alternative or integrative. And my doctor is an oncologist, a surgical oncologist, but he does more integrative therapies than he does traditional, but he does use some traditional therapies. He said you can't throw the baby out with the wash water. There are some things that modern science has brought to us that can be effective, but things like cancer or scurvy or MS or these other diseases of civilization are quite often caused by malnutrition. They eat a lot, but it's all sugar and they don't get the nutrients they need. And there's a food that they can eat that has trace cyanide in it, which can help solve the problem. That's what I did. So I'm all about hope, and I define hope as helping other people escape. HOP. 51 years now, I've been standing on a corner, standing behind a podium at church, standing behind a lectern in a city hall, testifying before Congress of the United States, and always saying the same thing. There is a way for this to work and work well. And it isn't done by trashing your family doctor. It's done soliciting their cooperation with you and them helping you get the things that you need while being tolerant of some of these other things. And it wouldn't hurt if our insurance companies would pay for it instead of making us pay cash. Those are things that have yet to be done, but maybe Bobby Kennedy will help and change some of those laws because they are archaic, deadly, and sentence people to an early demise because they don't know that there are healthy ways to augment their treatment. My doctor, a surgical oncologist, uses surgery to remove tumors because he says, why make this process dissolve large tumor masses? If it's safe to remove, I'll remove the tumors. You still have cancer. Cancer is not a tumor. That's a result of cancer. But by getting rid of that tumor, it's easier for this stuff to work and find cancer cells and destroy them.
Thank you so much, Eric. This has really been amazing.
That B17works.com, fill out that one-page questionnaire. I've answered 400 of them in the last 3 months. 400. Because I'm not going to let those people dangle. I'm not going to put them on the end of a string and see how long. No.
Yeah. Thank you
they
so much.
They deserve what I got.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Rick. Your story is a testament of the power of mindset, discipline, lifestyle choices, and the natural tools in long-term health. Your journey just shows that surviving and thriving after cancer isn't just about treatments, but about taking responsibility for your body, mind, and life. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to have you on this particular show. It's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, Rick.
Absolutely. Hey, you're part of the solution, not the problem. Yeah. Keep it up. Some days, maybe your audience is not as big as you want, but what if I was sitting in that audience, 24 years old, and I heard you, and then 51 years later, you're an old man, and I come along and say, you remember I was on that show you did? That's where I got help.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick, and to have a lovely day. Yeah.
Thank you.